So whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife, Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. But sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
But therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
I'm pouring a beer into a coffee cup.
Nice.
So then on camera, I'm not advertising what type of beer I'm drinking. Am I allowed to do that, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that because it's just going to be a YouTube channel. It doesn't
The
really
police
matter.
will come and knock down your door.
I don't know what
dang
the
it.
copyright laws are and everything.
You can anything you can do on your own opinion. You just can't. Like I've talked bad about Comcast numerous times on my YouTube channel, and they're the ones that,
Carry your internet.
carry my internet. Actually, lately I gotta say that I'm relatively happy with Comcast, but for a while I was not.
I just switched away from DirecTV. Like, you have a 2-year contract with them, and it just ran up, and Comcast gave me a really awesome deal, so I went with them. And the one thing I'm going to miss about DirecTV for sure is the customer service. Like, you cannot beat customer service with DirecTV. I never stayed on hold for longer than 2 minutes, like, ever, out of all the times I called them.
Well, and every time they screw up, they give you like $50 credit. Yep.
That's right.
I have
That's
DirecTV
right. They make
right
it
now.
right, like right now, and yeah, they give you something back for it for your trouble.
So what are you going to do about football season, though? That's one thing I love about DirecTV right now is we had the NFL package last year. We might have to pay for it this year because I had it free last year. But
it's super expensive to pay for it.
Yeah, it's
though.
like $150.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought it was like $199 or something.
Could be.
So $200 just to watch all these out of market games. Which
Yeah, well,
good.
for
I like
me,
watching-
it is out of market. I don't get to watch the games I want to watch
that's
out
true.
here in DC.
Oh, that would be horrible.
But for you, it kind of sucks because even paying for that, you don't get blacked out games.
The Lions games, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're
right.
blacked out, you still won't get them.
As a big fantasy football guy, like I used to love when I had that package because I could watch every player I had on my team no matter where they were playing a game. So, like, Carrie hated it because every Sunday I was watching football, from noon till I went to bed.
That's all we do in this household on Sundays.
But yeah, I will miss that for sure. But now one thing I don't miss about DirecTV, you said you have DirecTV, Jeff?
Yes.
Is all the, like, shopping channels. Like, there were so many on our program guide. You'd bring up the guide, and I don't even know how many shopping channels there were, but it was a ridiculous amount.
There is a lot. I do like the DVR aspect of it. It's a pretty good DVR. We have the Genie, so you can record like 4 shows at one time, and it's like pretty significant amount of space, so we can kind of record anything that we end up wanting to record. Whereas before I built an HTPC as my own DVR through Comcast, which I don't have Comcast anymore, so it's useless now because cable cards don't work through DirecTV. But now it's part of the package. But I will even say with the HTPC, like it would have errors even though it was built it my own. The signal would always be. I think they did that on purpose, like at Comcast, where all the TVs are showing these shows absolutely fine, and all of a sudden the one that's connected to my HTPC and recording it would, when I'd be recording a show, it'd all of a sudden get really choppy and jittery, and the signal would go out randomly. But if I was not recording and just watching it, it was perfect, it was fine. Like it was really weird the way that it worked that way.
Why would Comcast care?
Because I didn't purchase their own DVR.
Oh.
Because they sell a DVR for, however much money that you want to spend a month. Whereas it's kind of part of the package with DirecTV. I'm not even sure you can get one without DVR with DirecTV. I'm pretty sure they all have it.
Well, it depends on the package you get because I know with my DirecTV, and I guess I can't remember exact numbers right now, but the first year of the DirecTV contract was like super cheap. Like $70 or $80 a month or something like that for internet and, TV.
Oh, you had internet through DirecTV as well?
Well, it was a partnership with AT&T, so it was actually
gotcha.
the internet was Uverse or something.
Okay.
Right.
But then the second year of the contract, it was like 120 or 130 bucks a month. So, I mean, you save some money on the front end, but then you pay it all back the second year.
Right. I'll have to find out because my first year is about to expire here, coming up soon, and I was pretty sure I signed up for a contract that stayed the same the whole time, but I honestly don't remember.
Well, did you try to call them and ask?
Not yet, but
that's why I signed up. Sorry, Mark. That was why I signed up.
Okay, let me.
So, anyways, I will. And then,
did you try calling the company and seeing if you could just keep the price lower? Say that you would stay with them if.
Well, it's not about staying with them because of the fact that you're on a contract.
You're on a 2-year contract.
Right. With like Comcast and stuff, you never really have a contract, so it's kind of.
Well, you do now.
Do you?
Yeah.
At least for what I signed up for. Now, maybe they don't do it all the time, but I mean, my package was a low rate for 2 years. Like I pay. After taxes and everything, it's right around like $101 or something like that, and it's like 220 channels and HBO and Showtime, and it's got the high-speed internet and HD channels, and it's got the 500 gigabyte, HDR.
Right.
And so it's
a contract.
Right, yes, it's a 2-year contract for sure.
Yeah, I've never had a contract through Comcast before. It's always been I can leave when I want, and I've had success with Comcast before on calling them and canceling and having them give me good discounts, and other times I've had them just be like, nope, sorry, like you're lost, and like hang up the phone or whatever. And I know right now I'm on a 2-year contract with DirecTV, but I do want to try to call them and see if I can get a discount to get the NFL package for next year because I don't have it for next year yet, and that'd be the only thing I'd really care about at this point is if I can somehow get it discounted. But I heard that it's pretty easy to do with DirecTV, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I will miss that for sure because, like I said, I like watching all those out-of-market games. I just love football.
Well, I haven't watched football for years.
Well, and I'm not sure what you actually get over there in Japan. If anything, you probably have to like stream anything that you'd want to get. But
time difference, I would have to record everything.
Oh, that's true. But Mike, in Michigan, I remember very distinctly at 1 o'clock there was always 2 games on. At 4 o'clock there was always 2 games on, and then you had the late games that they played.
Yep.
Out here, it's 1 game at one of those times. If you're lucky, the second time you'll get 2 games. And granted, you do get the night games, but it's always the Skins, whatever time that they play. Which, by the way, what do you think? Name change soon. But besides that,
actually, they're changing the name.
They revoked the trademark on Washington Redskins right now.
They don't have to get rid of the name.
That's true. I think the pressure is going to push them to do so because the pressure is like relatively high for them to do such things. And now you can we could brand our show as the Redskins Network and have like the big Redskins logo up there and have absolutely no issue with copyright because they've taken away their copyright patents on it because of the offensive nature. And it'll be interesting to see when that moves over to the Cleveland Indians, and it's gonna go it's gonna spread throughout the nation at some point. This is like setting precedents from a very high perspective. And
how do you feel about it, Mike? I know you're a government businesses could do whatever they want kind of guy.
Yes, I am like that, and your Redskins have had no trouble selling tickets with the name the Redskins.
Right.
Now, that being said, I think if the Redskins want to keep their team name, okay, I'm cool with that. However, they are governed by the NFL, who is essentially their employer to some degree. So if the NFL says get rid of that name, that's a whole nother thing. Now, it depends. I don't know how all the contracts are wrote up between ownership of the Redskins and the NFL. Obviously, I don't know how all that worked. But, if there's nothing that says the NFL can't do it as the governing body over all these teams, then, okay, change it.
I mean, so you think that the businesses, even there's nothing in the contract that says they can't have that name. And even with the trademark thing not being relevant, you would think that the business should be in their rights to have what many people view as an offensive name.
If they want to, sure. If people get offended enough, they're going to stop buying tickets, and then that franchise won't exist.
Right,
So,
but maybe that's also the problem. Like, people haven't been getting offended enough. I mean, I'm not saying they should be more, they're not.
you can't say anything in this country anymore without people getting offended, for crying out loud.
So
Yeah,
I'm more curious. People at I've been to many Skins games. People at games are constantly selling illegal merchandise that, they've branded something as the Redskins and try to go out and say it's authentic gear. Look, it's got the logo, let's sell it. I've seen many of those people get arrested as well.
Right.
Obviously, they can't be arrested anymore for that because it's not illegal to
They
use
get in
that
trouble
trademark.
for selling merchandise on the premises.
Well, they usually don't do it on the premises. It's usually like just outside of the
Across the
venue,
street.
like on the way in. But the question is, if it's no longer trademarked, does that forgive the people who have already gotten in trouble for it?
No, because it was a crime at the time.
Right.
I know ex post facto works the other way. If they make something illegal, you can't then go back and get somebody in trouble for something that they did when it was legal. I'm not sure how it works this direction. Like, let's say they made
might be right.
murder legal for some reason in the country, just as a grand example.
Well,
Florida.
People who are in jail, do they still have to continue and finish their sentences for something that is now a legal thing?
Well,
I would
they
think
made
so.
how many states made
Murder illegal?
marijuana.
Probably.
Right.
all-
Yeah, that's
marijuana legal?
Was it
I don't think
Colorado
most
and
people-
Washington
Colorado and
did
Washington.
release all their prisoners who were locked up? Like, there wasn't just to open the doors, let everybody who was smoking pot out.
How many people who were arrested for smoking pot are still sitting in jail? I mean,
Well,
it's-
but I'm saying once they became legal, I'm almost positive they didn't have it just open the cells. Hey, did you smoke pot? And let everybody funnel out of jail. I don't think that happened.
I believe what you guys are saying. Like, it makes sense that you can't just be like, oh, you did something illegal, but now it's not, so we have to let you go. But I could have sworn I heard somewhere throughout, like, high school or early college in, like, classes about laws that going the opposite direction like this one
Right.
had a different
No, I
standard that
understand
it was
where you're
held up
coming
to.
from.
But I don't remember what it is. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to ever be a lawyer. I don't want to ever have to have my own lawyer for things to fight like that. But it's
Well, here's the thing. I understand why people feel like you can keep the business and have its name be whatever it wants, right? But I don't think people understand how offensive Redskins can be. And it's not just the color of the skin of the Indians, although that might be why the name was derived. Redskin is also a term that was used in the early settlehood of America, as in basically the dead babies of Native Americans that they used to trade in for money from the government. So the U.S. government used to pay for the skin of Indian.
now okay. That sounds horrible, and it sounds like a horrible, savage thing. But the thing is, what I don't know, and what a lot of people keep trying to tell me that they know for a fact is true, and I'm not sure if they do or if they're just talking about it or not. And Mike, you might know because you're so much more into sports and sports history and things like that. Was the Redskins name originally something that they did to be offensive, or was it made like that because at the time it was an acceptable term to use?
I'm pretty sure it was the latter of those, but I don't know for 100% sure.
Right.
See, and I
Well,
think that's where a big deal comes. It's like, yes, it's offensive, and I personally, if people are offended by it and it's really that big of an outlash, that think that if it's really offending people, yeah, maybe it should change. But as Mike said, if they're really offended, they'll just stop going to games or whatnot. So different aspects there. But a lot of people are trying to say, I can't believe what jerks they are, purposely made this offensive name, and I'm really not sure that they purposely made an offensive name.
I'm not saying that it. I mean, the people who used it at the time, I can understand them using it even in the opposite way, where they're trying to say, well, we think the Native Americans are great, so therefore we want to use
We're
this.
going to dedicate it to them, like as a tribute, as opposed to like.
But it's sort of like what's the like Mount Rushmore? Okay,
Is that offensive?
Basically, it is offensive to Native Americans because it was a Native American, mountain that they held sacred, right?
Okay.
And then America, came in. They basically defaced that mountain, and we still hold it as a national treasure. But I mean, basically, it's a sacrilege, basically used as a tourist site. And in a way, I'm not saying that we should destroy Mount Rushmore, but it's sort of a way like American history would continuously basically use native land and people and names.
Well, it all at one point was native land. I mean, we came over here and stole it from them. I mean, they owned it all.
Right, really. I mean, we're all from Michigan. Look at all the cities in Michigan are named after some kind of Indian word or name, or Saginaw. All these. There's all kinds of Indian.
Yeah, Mackinac.
Yeah, exactly, in Michigan.
And I think right now, if Indians find Native Americans find it offensive, then and you want to use it in a positive light, why not switch the name into something like they would prefer?
But I mean, the Native Americans aren't the ones that are controlling if the Redskins change their name or not. I mean, it's.
Right. I know, I understand.
I'm really curious. I'm curious to see how this one plays out because I'm surprised it gained as much traction as it did so quickly. And I can't really say it was quickly; it's always been up for discussion. But I really want to say that they really started pushing for it about a year ago. People really started pushing against it, and within the year, it was all of a sudden like, boop, de-trademarked. Like it's so they're making a lot of progress really quick. So I'm curious to see what's going to play out in it.
I think it's going to be better for America.
What
overall?
If they change it, or if they
if we just have less offense. I know people are like, oh, we're being so PC now, but if less people are being offended, isn't that better? Sometimes, not always, but
yeah, we're PC when it's convenient and it's right there hitting us in the face usually. So the Redskins thing is the next to go, maybe. I mean, we'll see. It's a good marker for where we're at as far as Americans go.
People are going to be listening to this podcast in 20 years from now and be like, I can't believe those guys are even questioning whether they should have changed that name. Like,
I know.
What anti-Semitic, Native American haters they are. Like,
well, didn't Georgia just change their laws just a couple of years ago to get slavery technically off the books or something? And we're sort of saying, well, of course slavery is not right. So you should have put it off the books a long time ago. And they're like, yeah, but it's so obvious we didn't need to do it.
Yeah, we're not where we need to be here in America for sure. Like just a couple years back, a couple towns over, there's a city called Howell.
Yeah.
They literally had a state auction. Now this isn't fresh in my mind, so I'm gonna, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but I know it was a city auction, and they auctioned off Klan robes. Where they were kind of notorious for being like them and Kahakta, kind of where the Klan sprang up around here. So it's that shouldn't be something taking place in the year 2010 or 11 or whatever it is.
Well, this is my thought on being PC. When Michelle Obama, she referenced gypped, what it's sort of like a derogatory. It's sort of offensive to people who would be referred to as gypsy, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually a very derogatory term.
Right. But when I grew up, I've heard and I've used the word gyp, but I was never really told that was an offensive term. And as soon as I heard it in the news, Michelle Obama used this word and it's offensive, my first thought wasn't, oh, that's PC, we should really, now the government or whatever is watching over us. My first thought was, well, I didn't know that was offensive. I'm not going to use this word in the future. Basically, that's my thought process.
Well, I just actually had a big argument, like a big debate type argument with a bunch of people a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Administrative Professionals Day and, the changing over of the word secretary to administrative assistant because of how derogatory the term secretary was. And I'm more on the side of that as, why is secretary a derogatory term? Like, because you still have a Secretary of State, like, you still have a bunch of different secretaries. That's not derogatory toward those offices. And the counter argument that was being made against my thought process, and it's not derogatory, well, if you do that job role and you don't like the term because you feel it puts you in a negative light, then you by all means have the right to change it. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. You can't just appease everybody. Like, it's janitors are no longer janitors. Like in my hospital there.
Custodial engineers?
Well, they're environmental services, the Department of Environmental Services, or I've heard custodial engineers because janitor is such a derogatory term. No, it's not. It's the job role you perform. It doesn't mean it's derogatory in any way. Like, you do janitorial tasks. Like, well, I think we do take some things way too far. Whereas other things that actually do cross the line and go too far, people are like, "Oh, come on, that's tradition. We must
people
keep
cry
that
wolf
there."
Way too often.
The truth.
I think there's two ways to look at that, and I sort of agree with you, Jeff. But I also see it two ways. One, we shouldn't be so quick to assume that people are crying wolf because secretaries now probably do a lot more with it than what they used to do in the past. So if you're saying, "Oh, you're just a secretary," we're limiting.
I never said you're just a secretary to anybody.
No,
like, let's get this clear. I didn't try to devalue what they do. But a secretary and an administrative assistant, they do the same thing. They're the same job.
Even if they do a whole lot more now, then it shouldn't be derogatory to call them a secretary because that title should retain the value that it's attributed.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that secretary is necessarily a bad word. I think basically some people use the word secretary to, demean people. Like, we all
the
do
Secretary
our
of Defense. I demean him all the time with that term.
yeah. But when you use that word, you don't
just a secretary over there.
My point being is when you use that word secretary for the Secretary of Defense, you're not like, "Oh, he's only Secretary of Defense." Well, some people might use, like, you're working at a business, you're a white-collar job worker, and then you have this person that's probably working right with the boss, and he's like, "Oh, she's only the secretary." That could be used in a demeaning way, not necessarily the word itself, but the way.
I walk in a room all the time, and people are like, "Hey, doctor," and then somebody will be like, "No, he's just the nurse." I don't get offended because they're just a nurse. What are you talking about? Just a nurse?
You should be, though.
No, you know what I find interesting?
No, I shouldn't be because I'm not the doctor. I'm not the person that's going to make those decisions. And if they think I'm the doctor, they do need to know that I'm not that person. That I'm a step down the chain from making the decisions. Like secretary, I'm not going to walk in and be like, "Oh, you're just the secretary," as derogatory as in you're not the person I'm here to see. I'm here to see the person you're the secretary for.
And by the way, what I think is interesting too is that when Mark just made that point, he said, "Well, she's just a secretary. Why are you assuming it's a woman?"
That's true.
She or he, yeah. Oh, but
let's do it. He's just like, let's gloss over my sexism and move on.
Okay. No. Honestly, you're right. You're right. Secretary could be of any gender, but I think what I was trying to say is when someone says you're just a nurse, that is a little bit offensive because nurses do a lot of things.
No, people who get offended because somebody says they're just a nurse, anytime that I've ever been, quote-unquote, offended by it, it's because I'm joking with somebody about calling me just a nurse, because there's absolutely no reason to be offended by that. Because there really is a higher level that people need to go to. I don't make those decisions. I can't make those decisions. It's not within my legal scope of practice. So yes, in that case, I am just the nurse because somebody else makes the decisions. It doesn't mean it's derogatory because, oh, this is just the nurse, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's not what it's meant by. It's meant by that you're not the person I'm there to see. You're not the person who makes the final say.
But some people might say it that way.
I could say you're just the vice president because I was trying to talk to the president. It doesn't mean it's derogatory because you're lower on the totem pole. It just means that you're not the guy that makes the decision
Well,
I'm needing to get made right now.
Well, the same person can say, "Oh, he's the nurse. The doctor will be in." But if someone says, "You're just the nurse, the doctor will be in," that's two different.
I think you're just
less than
you're
the
enabling the problem, Mark, by trying to show people
Right.
that saying
agree.
you're
It's
just
good
the
stuff.
something. I don't get offended by it, and I'm the person who's called just a nurse all the time. There's no reason to get offended by it. Like, if somebody literally said it to me on purpose to be derogatory, you're also going to realize that they're saying it for that purpose. People will make that apparent, and then I'm not going to get offended that you think I'm just a nurse. I'm just going to think you're an asshole. Like, that's all that's going to happen.
Well, and I think it's very telling that we're such big fans of reality TV over here in the States, because all that promotes is drama and, petty arguing over, that kind of thing.
And that's how it should be. Drama
every
and
single
petty
channel
arguing.
is, the Kardashians and Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's just
And Redneck
manufactured drama for the sake of drama. And that's all this kind of thing is. Like, everybody being offended over everything. Nobody used to be offended over stuff like this. It's just a recent thing, and I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's
I think
helping us
there's
as
been
the
people
country.
who've been offended for many different reasons that we used to say, "Oh, people didn't used to get offended by that." I mean, not for.
But we
I think what
used to
they're
just
saying
call them a
is the
sissy and
quantity
be on
of
our
it,
way.
I mean, there is some things that definitely need to be noted that are completely different, like with the rise in the acceptance of homosexuality. A lot of old, like, derogatory homosexual terms, yes, that's probably at this point needs to get abolished, because back then people were really against it, and now people are actually opening their minds and realizing that it's something that's good and healthy, and you can do this, and we can allow you to get married and things like that. There's
By
a
the
big
way, let me make a disclaimer here. When I just said we used to just call them sissies and be on our way. Like, I'm not talking about real problems. I'm talking about the manufactured garbage that goes on TV now. Like, for example, you have that what is that show on? I think it's MTV with the teenagers being pregnant.
16 and pregnant or something like that.
Is that what it's called? 16. and
That's
pregnant?
one
Okay.
of the 85 shows
Yeah,
that
I was
fit
going
the
to say, I
demographic
think
you're
there's
talking
probably
about.
a ton of them now. But I mean, those shows are literally just how a 16-year-old and the guy who knocked her up can't get along, and they have trouble staying together for this kid. Well, no kidding. It used to be, shut up, hope the guy mans up. But in reality, at 16, he's probably not going to. You made bad decisions. Let's figure out the best thing to do. But instead, now it's put on TV. I've never been on the set of one of those shows, but I would imagine they try to steer these people towards disagreements and petty arguments because it's better for TV. And so now every 16 through 19-year-old girl who watches this garbage is showed that that's the way things are supposed to be. And
Well, no. I think there's been studies that it actually does the exact opposite. Pregnant at 16 is probably the best thing for 16-year-olds to watch, because most of those shows end up with, I lost my boyfriend, I can't hang out with friends, and now I have so much responsibility, my life is shit. And it's,
you don't think
I think people watch it and see their chance of stardom. Not everybody by any chance or by any stretch of the imagination, but I think way more than one or two. I think there's a decent amount of people who watch it and they're like, oh, if I get pregnant, I can go on a TV show and then I'll be set for life. And
besides, I have a teenage daughter, and there has never been a scenario in life where she has not thought, well, sure, everybody has made that mistake, but I'll be different. Like, that's what teenagers do.
Right.
Is decide that I can do that better.
I don't know. I honestly don't think. I think there's been studies that show that it's a very good form of.
Really? I would love to see these studies, because I've always been informed of the opposite, but at the same time, I've never done research to find out if that's truly the case.
In our heads, we want to say, oh, well, this is the glorification of being pregnant at 16, but I think if anybody watches the show, all these kids that are pregnant at 16 are pretty miserable in the show. That's the drama of the show. Like, if it's pregnant at 16 and everyone's having a great time, then the show probably wouldn't have as many viewers.
That's true. It would not have as many viewers. So nobody wants to see that because, as Mike said, we like drama. We like petty arguments. And I'm sure on the set of that show, they do steer people toward the drama and things like that.
And I think I have actually read some of the studies or heard about them that Mark is talking about where, I can't remember exactly what they were, is driving teen pregnancy down a little bit. Somehow they're attributing that to that show. I'm not sure how they make that correlation. But I don't know how much faith I put in that.
Well, I don't really put too much faith in any statistical studies just because if you know anything about it, they're all manipulated, so it doesn't really have...
So are you saying, Mike, you wouldn't want your daughter to be on 16 and Pregnant? Is that what you're saying?
I would rather she not. No, I could definitely say I would rather she not be on the show. Pretty sure.
Oh, American drama. We love it. From the Redskins to 16 and Pregnant. They all are one. So talk to us, guys. WDWKpodcast.com is our website. WDWK Podcast at Facebook and at Twitter. You can get a hold of us, as well as WDWKpodcast at gmail.com. Send us an email. Talk to us. Keep listening.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife? Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. Sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?